So on this video, we're going to be learning why statements like this,
but Fury was up against it,
and like this,
refused to remove his shirt,
and like this,
and he came out making a ridiculous claim,
can be really helpful for helping people to become more aware of their thoughts and feelings, to become better versions of ourselves. So yeah, this video follows on from the video that I posted yesterday, and thank you very much for all the kind comments, the messages and comments on my YouTube as well. But again, I put across there that it's no secret, and that's why I try to share my philosophy and my learning, because if we can become aware of the stories that we are telling ourselves inside our head, we're more likely to be more balanced, more factual, more logical, more likely to be a better version of ourselves. And that's what I want to do with this video, is just to share a really good example from an absolute expert who I admire greatly, Chael Sonnen, about why he, Eddie Hearn, Teddy Atlas, and David Haye, loads of other experts got involved in a storytelling process, a narrative process about the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder rematch by being no more than beautifully human. Now I've seen, experts being slated online, they should have knew this, they should have knew, yeah. We are but human. We've all got areas where we are allowed to be human, where we fall into be human, where we are embraced by those humanistic tendencies of storytelling that have been told for as long as we've been on this planet. But by being aware of the stories that we are telling ourselves, we can start to dissect them through what I said yesterday, logical probability, rather than letting emotional reasoning dictate our thoughts and feelings and the stories that we tell. But this is not just applicable to fighting, to boxing, to MMA. If we can get better at the stories that we create in ourselves, to become more in control of the stories that we create in our heads, we will be a better version of ourselves everywhere. And that, people, is factual. So, do you want to get more right first time? Do you want to be less stressed? Do you want to feel better more of the time? Do you want to just feel more confident about yourselves and perform better? Then that's what we're going to do in this video, just to share some learning by using a really good example of a narrative where we're going to dissect it and just show you where this emotional versus factual reasoning was coming into it, so you can take these techniques, these tools, and apply them in practice of repetition, so you get good at them, so you become a more balanced version of yourself, a better version of yourself, a higher performing version of yourself. If you're returning, welcome back to the Believe in Bruce channel, and if you're new here, I'm really glad to see you. Believe in Bruce, the channel where anything to do with the head and heart. If you're interested, this is the channel for you. Performance psychology, mental health, well-being. If you're interested, take a second to subscribe below, please. Give me a thumbs up, but also comment below. The comments and the messages that I'm getting about, how my information is helping people is really heartwarming to me, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get that information across there that I know that, in fact, to be fair, let's be honest, I wish I had been told when I was 10, 12, 5 years old. So let's get into it. Chael Sonnen, absolutely love the guy. I am unaware, hands up, I am unaware of a better narrator in the fight game than Chael Sonnen. He was great when he was a fighter. He could verbally spar with anybody, but there's just something that when the guy speaks, I want to listen. I want to listen. He's so educated, and the way that he orates and get his words across, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I want to put that out there that I'm a Chael Sonnen fan. And when I was watching his video that he uploaded yesterday, I thought, this beautifully segues, this actually gives a fantastic example of the stuff that I was saying yesterday about emotional reasoning leading logical probability, that this one being strong. Remember, it's about emotion and anything, the stories that we create in the wider life. It's about this ladder that we create. These steps that we start constructing in our head based on emotion, generally fear, that we actually stop checking. We stop checking. Have you ever sent a text and not got one back? Have you ever read an email and thought it was a little bit snotty or a little bit harsh? Have you ever received some type of communication and someone's put 2 exclamation marks instead of 1? All the stories that we can create. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at why we create stories based on a valid example from an expert in relation to a recent event that lots of people got wrong because they were being beautifully human. It's not that they got wrong, they just weren't allowing the data to shine through, because that emotion, the sprinkling of emotion that they were putting on there was far too powerful. They didn't check the stories, and boom, they are away down the wrong road. So again, I'm going to play some examples now from Chael Sonnen's recent video. And what I'm going to do is, every time that he says something that is emotional, by emotional I mean non-specific, I'm going to bring it to your attention. Alright, there'll be a little buzzer coming up. I'm going to bring it to your attention and then I'll explain why it's not based on data or why it was illogical or inaccurate to try to apply to this specific scenario. And this is what I'm talking about. The specific scenario that we're on about was Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder in the rematch. Anything outside of this doesn't really matter. It was him versus him in a rematch. So the first clip I want to show here is you can see where Chael was coming from when he was already building that story, because the words that we use on ourselves, the labels that we give, as I've mentioned in some previous videos, how we perceive ourselves, the story that we use to represent ourselves are really powerful in how we feel and the actual views and perspectives of life we then take. So listen to this and then I'll explain it.
But Fury was up against it. But Fury was up against it.
So straight away, Fury was up against, was he? Was he up against it? What data did we have to say that Fury was up against it? The data was a Fury that had come back from mental health issues, drink, drugs, depression, etc. Some could argue schooled Wilder. So where was the data that proved that Fury was up against it? So straight away, we're already going up that ladder. We are already creating a story based on emotion rather than logical probability, the data that's present. And in this one, he uses a specific word. Let's listen to this.
I mean, Fury came in bigger than he's ever been. He was so big that he refused to remove his shirt at weigh-in.
You see, he refused to take it. Whoa, refused. Where's the data to say that he refused? He refused. Is that your interpretation of it? You know, when I talk about anxiousness versus excitability, when some people go on stage, they say, oh, I'm very anxious. My heart's beating fast, my pulse is going, I'm breathing rapidly, my hands are tingling, my mouth's going dry. Well, actually, if the label you give yourself is that, actually, I'm excited. I'm excited to go on stage as I do and I perform and I give, talks and lectures. I change the label because when I'm excited, what do? My heart beats fast, I breathe quick, my hands go tingly, my mouth goes dry. But the label is really important, how you feel. So by Chael Sonnen saying he refused, he's already spinning a negative connotation on there. The fact is, Chael, the fact is, I can't say if he refused. I do know he didn't take his shirt off. That's fact. He didn't take his shirt off. But any reason why what you're trying to apply to that is purely based on your head. But because he's already up against it, he's refused it. But you can see the narrative that he was playing inside his head. And that narrative wasn't checked, which is part of being beautifully human. And again, we've got one here where he says he's going to be painted with the same brush.
More power, wanted more size. That's a really nice thing to say. The problem is you're going to be painted with the same brush that the guys came before you.
But the problem with this is that you're painting the wrong picture with the wrong brush. You should be using the brush of Tyson Fury to brush Tyson Fury. You're bringing in historical data of other fighters. You're comparing apples and oranges. But because you had started to construct that story because of that emotional wilderness, you're not even realising that you're comparing apples and oranges. Alright, so we are painting Tyson Fury with the same brush, not Tyson Fury. We're painting the wrong picture, we're using the wrong colours, we're using the wrong brush. Based on emotion. Then he goes to say, like heavyweight guys who haven't trained then get beat up.
Created. The guys who came before you who showed up bigger than they've ever been, particularly in the heavyweight division, get beat up.
But all the data was there. Tyson Fury was telling us what he was going to do. He was telling us how hard he was training. I've knocked out, 500 cans of Diet Coke. He's changed everything. He's moved trainers, moved training camp. He's brought a nutritionist in. He was telling us how hard he was training. Why were you not listening to the data? Because we are emotional beings. And again, he goes to then further affirm his thoughts that all of the stuff that's happened in the past should have carried over to Tyson Fury.
They didn't train as hard. They're out of shape. They're slower. All of these things should have carried over to Tyson Fury.
Well, why should it? Why should it have carried over to Tyson Fury? We need to apply Tyson Fury data and Deontay Wilder data to Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Whatever happens to Andy Ruiz, whatever happened to Joe Louis, whatever happened to Rocky Marciano, it's irrelevant. Two fighters, what are the data that we got about that specific situation? Remember, everything in life is a story. We tell ourselves stories. Even now what I'm doing to you is I'm narrating the story, is my version of what I'm trying to get across. And that's beautiful, that's what we do as humans. But we need to be specific when we're thinking about specific things. When you're looking for enhancement in performance, when you're looking for to perform at your best, when you're looking for that product that I talked about yesterday, to do what that product needs to do at the time it needs to do it, you need to be specific. And then he says, oh, well, you know, he's a big guy, he's 6'10", 6'9", and we're asking him to float around the ring.
I mean, historically speaking, they should carry over. To be 273 pounds and to be able to float around the ring, he's 6'10" or something crazy, like 6'9". He's a big guy.
Well, that's what he does. That's what he has done. It's you know, the data is there. The data is there to say that he's got 20 knockouts out of 29. And also that the data, we've watched him fight, he is a big guy and he does float around the ring. Now again, what we didn't take into account was that he's got a 6'9" frame. To put whatever he put on a 6'9" frame, within there he compared about Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is tiny compared to Tyson Fury. Yeah, again we're comparing apples and oranges. Let's focus. Conor McGregor shouldn't even be part of that conversation, because we're focusing on Tyson Fury. And the data tells us that Tyson Fury can move.
But these things are stunning because they are not what history has told us.
Again, history. There's this constant narrative there that you're comparing other people to Tyson Fury. Chael, you've stopped thinking, and other experts, you've stopped thinking about the subject, the specific subject that you're talking about, which is Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. And then we talk about Ruiz versus Joshua.
It looks like he's doing what Ruiz just did with Anthony Joshua.
Now again, let's just pause here, alright? Let's just pause. Andy Ruiz, through his own admission, did not train, and I'm not even sure if he trained, let's be fair, yeah, for the Joshua 2 rematch. Joshua did. Joshua trained, he knew what he was up against. He come in different, you could see the product had been worked on. Andy Ruiz didn't. But, so when we're comparing Andy Ruiz and what happened here to Tyson Fury, the only commonality that they've got, the only commonality, in fact there's two commonalities, let's be fair, is they both were in a rematch. But the only commonality that they've got is they both put on weight. Nothing about muscle mass, nothing about power, nothing about how hard they trained. It's like when you go for, these sort of quick weight loss programs and say, you can lose 14 pounds in the first 7 days. Well, yeah, most of it's water. Yeah, most of it is water. And we know this. But what you got here is an expert saying, oh, you know about this weight. No! Look at the definitive shape of Tyson Fury compared to Andy Ruiz. It is it is total chalk and cheese. Totally chalk and cheese. But yet again, because of the stories that we tell, we forget that journey that we're putting ourselves on. We're not looking at logical probability, we're not looking at data, we're looking at an emotional reaction that we've started this cadence. He refused to put his tie, he was up against it from the start. And then, heuristic bias, as I mentioned in the last video, heuristic bias. We then take data that solidifies the image that we're trying to do. This is what Chael Sonnen's done. Here, remember, you can't guarantee that anything's going to come out right. You can't guarantee the outcome of anything. Life, situations, fights. But what you can do is you can put a guess, an assumption, an estimation based on logical probability, based on the data, which is more like, yes, you're always going to get a punch. You can always get a wild card coming out there. But me personally, I'd always put my bets on based on data rather than just a whim. Just a whim. Let's go with the data. And Chael Sonnen pretty much sums up everything, every aspect of all those experts if they had taken into the data, but they didn't. And this is how Chael Sonnen sums up, for me, beautifully, all of those experts' opinions pre-fight.
Wrong, wasn't, all wrong, take it all away. All that commentary is wrong. Even Teddy Atlas came out. A lot of these things I just told you, I stole from Teddy Atlas.
And then he goes on the last bit here to say that the rules didn't apply to Tyson Fury.
The rules did not apply to Tyson Fury.
It's not that the rules didn't apply to Tyson Fury. It's that you weren't applying Tyson Fury rules to Tyson Fury. You weren't looking at just him. You weren't looking at the data that you had. You weren't looking at the data that come from both fighters, that there had already been an observable amount of data from the first fight. This was the rematch. That was put to the side, and these stories that we had created were the more in power, were the ones that were taking control, were the ones that were driving us down the wrong road, that we never just put the lights on, pulled in, put the handbrake on, got them out and said, where are we going? But again, that's about being beautifully human in every aspect of our life. You know what I talk about here on the Believe in Bruce channel about heads and hearts? We are human. We say don't judge a book by its cover. We can't help it. We judge everything. But the skill comes in being able to become aware of those judgments that you're making, those stories that you're telling yourself, and to come back to, is it factual or is it emotional? We all get it. We can't not feel emotion. We can't. But there are certain tools, techniques, that if you apply in repetition of these tools and techniques, that will allow you to be more balanced, to be more confident, to be less stressed, to be more in control of your thoughts and feelings, resulting in a better you, a better thinking you, a better feeling you, a better performing you. All by being more in control of these thoughts, these stories that make us beautifully human. Remember, it's no failures. We are but human beings, of which we are sense-making beings. So hopefully you've enjoyed that little exploration just by using some data from an expert about the stories that they were telling themselves. And that's what I'd like you to do. Maybe pick something now that's stressing you out. A story that you've told yourself about a person, an incident, a situation. And just actually write it down. Yeah, write it down. What are you feeling about that particular situation? And all the stuff that you write down, just when you look at it, when you've got it in front of you, ask yourself, is this emotional or is it factual? Is it just emotion that I'm reacting to, the stories in my head, and I haven't had time to check it? Because I guarantee most of it will be. Be more in control of those thoughts or feelings to be a better you. I'm going to start doing some really good mental health, psychological tools and techniques videos in the next few weeks. So please, if you're interested in becoming a better version of yourself or to help the people around you, please subscribe below, give me a thumbs up, and also leave your comments below if anything what I've said resonates with you, just with a factual versus emotional, to help you be a better version of yourself. But above everything else, believe in Bruce. Please remember to be kind to yourselves and each other.